it was not about the destination. It was about the journey. It was something I had to go through. But it took me so long to get there.
Hey Limitless Nation, today you're in for a real treat. Today you get to learn directly from ANDREA WILSON WOODS. ANDREA is a writer who loves to tell stories and is a patient advocate who founded the nonprofit Blue Faery, the Adrienne Wilson Liver Cancer Association. Adrienne is the CEO and co-founder of Cancer University, a for-profit social benefit digital health company. With Cancer U, ANDREA synergizes her talents of coaching, writing, teaching, and advocacy. Her nonfiction writing has won national awards. Her new book, a medical memoir titled Better Off Bald, A Life in 147 Days, is a #1 bestseller on Amazon in multiple categories. In today's masterclass, you're going to learn directly from the master herself, ANDREA WILSON WOODS. Let's dive into it.
Well, before you dive into today's masterclass session, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. It allows you to receive notification about every single time we have uploaded a new video and showing you how to live a limitless life. Now, if you want to dig deeper on what you need to do to hunt your future, make sure you watch the interview that I've done with Donna Vaughn at huntyourfuture.com. It will show you how you can hunt your future on every aspect of your being. Plus, you're going to receive tips and secrets on what you need to do to tackle your days on a regular basis. Now, let's dive into today's masterclass sessions.
Hey, welcome, ANDREA WILSON WOODS.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome, and I am so excited and pumped to have you here with us today.
I'm really excited to be here. I really appreciate you getting me on the show so quickly.
Absolutely. You're most welcome. Now, here at the Limitless Nation, we have a tradition of starting every interview with a limitless quote. So do you have a limitless quote that you could share with the Limitless Nation?
Yeah, I do. It's been attributed to many people, including Nelson Mandela and President Roosevelt, but it's some version of this. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's having the fear and moving forward anyway. It's one of my favorite quotes because I think there's this myth that if you have courage, you don't have fear. And that's just not true. We all have fear. It's just about moving forward, going through it anyway.
100%, 100%. Because no matter what life is throwing at you right now, you need to be able to keep moving forward, keep taking that imperfect, consistent action, and be able to really move forward in spite of everything that's happening in your life.
Exactly.
Now, in still moving forward in spite of everything that's happening in your life, and life can throw an awful lot into one person's life one way or another, both good and bad. But can you share with the Limitless Nation a challenge, setback, struggle, maybe even a failure that you've had to go through and grow through to get to the spot in life on your limitless journey that you're at now?
Yeah, I would say it was a challenge and probably the best thing I've ever done with my life. When I was 22 years old, I got custody of my younger sister, Adrienne, and she was 8 years old at the time. And I raised her all through my 20s. And I still consider raising her the best thing I've ever done in my life. It was the best thing I've ever done. I loved being her parent. And then 1 month after her 15th birthday, she was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. And her cancer journey only lasted 147 days. And she died a few months after my 29th birthday. And her death changed the whole course of my life. Like everything I started knew to be true was no longer true. And there's another great quote. I don't know who said this one, but life is what happens when you're busy making plans. And I had plans for my life, and they got completely thrown out the window. About a year after my sister's death, I started a nonprofit, Blue Faery, the Adrienne Wilson Liver Cancer Association, and it's dedicated to primary liver cancer. And I ended up going back to school and getting my master's degree in writing. And I just took all these different steps through my 30s that were complete 180 from what I was doing in my 20s.
Wow, that is intense. My
Yeah.
condolences for your loss.
Thank you.
That must be extremely difficult to not only raise your own sister, but to watch that tragic thing happen in someone so close to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really hard. I lost my sister, but I also lost my child.
Wow. So in going through that difficult challenge of having to not only raise someone, but also watch someone in their end of times with something as difficult as that situation, what would you say was your aha moment? The moment where everything just, because once you're in that whirlwind of emotions and everything's just spinning all around you, how did you find a way to right yourself up and get to where you are now?
Well, the aha moment didn't happen for a while. It didn't happen while during her cancer journey. Let me give a quick background. So even though I'm from the South, I was raised in Arkansas and Alabama, and my sister was born in Alabama. I lived my entire adult life in Los Angeles, and I raised my sister in LA. She is buried there. But when she died, it was never the same for me. And I actually lived in Burbank, which is a very close-knit community. And I would run into people who knew my sister, and it was painful. And there was even a really low point where if I recognized someone in public, I would hide before they saw me, because it just got to a point where, you know, people treat you differently when your child dies. And it's because you are different. You are no longer the same person than you were before. You still have the same character, but you're just not the same anymore. And so the last 4 years I was in Los Angeles, I hated being in LA. I can't even imagine how difficult I was to be around. And I hated being there, but I wasn't doing anything about it. And so my aha moment was, I remember I was leaving movie theater. I had just seen Gone with the Wind on the big screen. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I was walking to my car with my then husband, and I was like, I'm just going to leave LA. I don't have a plan. I'm just going to quote Nike, do it, just do it. And I was very fortunate that my husband supported the move when no one else did, even though we did eventually end our marriage. And the funny thing is, people got really hung up on the fact that I was moving to Alabama. They were like, oh my God, you're leaving California, going to Alabama, when it was not about the destination. It was about the journey. It was something I had to go through. But it took me so long to get there. And now I've been in Alabama 5 years. It was the best decision I've ever made for my life.
Wow. And that is incredible. You went from something that was happy, but at the same time stressful, raising somebody younger than yourself in your early 20s, when most people would be out partying and drinking
Yeah.
and just, living life.
Right. Vacations. All my friends were on vacations.
You took on those responsibilities head first. You also saw it through. You didn't just pass it off or pawn it off onto somebody else to deal with the loss of your sister. And then, I'm not going to say all of a sudden, but very abruptly, what would be to most people, you just said, all right, I'm done. I'm done living in the city. I want to go somewhere else. And
Yeah.
I'm just, right now, we're leaving. And you have that bravery in order to do that. And that's incredible.
Thank you. And yes, people did seem to think it was all of a sudden, and even though I've been complaining about LA for years, but they did, because once I made up my mind, there was no going back. From the day I made up my mind to the day I moved was less than 3 months. I think it was about 9 weeks, actually. It was quick.
That is fast.
Yeah.
So with all of that happening and, life turning upside down, left, right, and center on you, what are you working on now?
Hope you enjoyed the masterclass session so far. Before we get into the second half of the session itself, it is very crucial for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as I really don't want you to miss out on another masterclass where I'm going to share with you what other experts, celebrities, Fortune 5000 companies do to become successful and live a limitless life. So make sure you subscribe right now, and every single time we upload a new video, you will receive a notification bell. This allows you to enjoy the masterclass on the regular basis. So make sure you subscribe right now. Well, as you are ready, let's get into the second half of the masterclass session.
Well, two things. So less than 2 years ago, I've co-founded Cancer University, which is a for-profit social benefit health tech startup. So Cancer University, or as we like to call it, Cancer U, is an online membership platform for cancer patients and caregivers to educate and empower them to become advocates for themselves during their cancer journey. And in addition to Cancer U, my medical memoir, Better Off Bald, A Life in 147 Days, was published a few months ago. And that book tells that story of raising and losing my sister to liver cancer. So it's that 7-year timeline in my life. And it became a bestseller in multiple categories on Amazon. And if you want to learn more about either one of those, you can go to cancer.university and betteroffbald.com.
What was the second one again?
Betteroffbald, BALD.com.
Okay, Better Off Bald. Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Now, in your transition from moving from LA, the busy bustle of the city, to Alabama, where it's a little bit slower, a little bit southerner, a little bit more of an accent, all that, what would you say was something that was keeping you from really being limitless when you wanted to make that move, as well as in pertaining to what you're doing now, which is also being a best-selling author?
Fear of change. I think it is the single biggest fear everyone has. I think you can almost boil down any fear that you have down to fear of change. I was scared of leaving LA, even though I wanted to leave. You know, I was scared of publishing my book, even though I had had that manuscript written and rewritten and edited for years. I was scared to leave my marriage, you know, even though I was unhappy and had been for a long time. I mean, it just was fear of change and fear of the unknown.
Wow. And I completely agree with that, because most people, they don't want to change. They're more comfortable living in their known challenges, their known pitfalls, than they are with just taking another step or two forward into something that would be unknown for them. But they fear it so much more than the discomfort that they're in right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to watch, because the thing that really helped me was going back to my sister's cancer journey, because when you are given that kind of news, I mean, it happened so quickly. Like the day before, she was fine. She was in high school. She was in no pain. The next day I come home and find her curled up in a fetal position saying she can't breathe. 6 hours later, an ER doctor says she has tumors in her liver and lungs. Boom. That's how fast it was. And when you're in that kind of situation, you don't have a choice. You're adapting constantly to change. I mean, it was constant. Every single hour there was something new, especially those first 2 weeks. And that actually helped me a lot to go back to that and remember, it's like, wait a minute, you can change. You can change on a dime. Your whole life changed in 6 hours. My sister did not go back to school, like in school. We had to do homeschool. I didn't go back to work that day when we heard that news. I didn't go back. I mean, our lives changed in an instant, really, and we adapted. We made it work. A week later, she was doing chemotherapy. I mean, it was nuts. And we all have that ability to change. We do. Again, it comes back to that, you know, looking fear in the face and just keep going. You know, the fear is going to be there. It's
absolutely.
Keep going.
So if you had the ability, since you have impacted so many different people throughout the entire world, being a best-selling author, that's not an easy feat to achieve. Thank you. You're welcome. That is something that not a lot of authors can lay claim to. But you have that title of best-selling author, and you have impacted so many people because of that. What would you say is the number one piece of advice that you yourself were given that you now can pass on to the Limitless Nation?
It was a piece of advice given to me a few years ago, and when I first heard it, I was very resistant, but now I preach it to everyone. It is don't treat people the way you want to be treated, even though that's what we're taught. That's the golden rule, right? I think it's even in the Bible. You need to treat people the way they want to be treated. And it took a while for me to do that. But when I started doing that, really just treat people the way they want to be treated. Recognize that someone may not want or need the same things that you do. It really freed me up.
100%.
Yeah.
Wow. Because that is really a different way to look at it. That's a complete shift of a paradigm, because most people are always, as you treat people as well as you want to be treated, everything's going to be fine. But
Yeah.
you're saying that you should really turn that on a dime and really take the time to understand, what does the other person want and need, and how does
Exactly.
the other person want to be respected or treated, and treat the person that way.
Exactly.
So in going through all of that, the way that you were living life prior to having a sister and now after having a sister, those cannot be the same lives. I mean, as you yourself said, when you lose someone, your entire life changes. You're not the same person. And people who know you also know that, because it kind of leaves a hole in your life when someone you love just, up and leaves.
Yeah. Well, I always say I live my life backwards. So I raised a child in my 20s. I got married in my 30s, and I'm finally really finding my career in my 40s. So I just did everything backwards. That's all. And also the very interesting thing is my closest friends now are the friends I had in high school. And I wasn't as close to them for a period of time in my life. But then we sort of reunited in different ways. I had a very close group of friends when I was raising my sister, most of them from college, and they were all aunts and uncles to her. They were there for her whole cancer journey. And it was a very close knit group, but they weren't necessarily friends with each other, but they were all friends with me. And I lost all of them after she died, one by one by one. I lost every single person. And with the exception of one person where I actually ended the friendship because it was in my best interest to do so, all the other people just left, sometimes with no explanation whatsoever. And that was really, really hard. So even the friendships in my life look different now and than they did then.
100%, 100%. But with you changing life and going through all these different changes, there must be different habits or rituals that you have implemented in your life from where you started to where you are now. But what I'm really curious about is, what is a habit that you have adapted into your life now that helps you maintain this limitless life and that helped you get to this best-selling author status?
Well, I developed a very consistent nighttime routine, and it took a long time to do. I didn't even have this 5 years ago, and I have about 8 or so different pieces, but they include things like meditation, a gratitude journal. I read every night before bed. For years, I didn't do that because I heard, oh, you shouldn't read before you go to bed, even though I did that when I was a kid and I loved it. Like for me, it's actually a way to unwind, even though I tend to read very serious books. So I have a very consistent nighttime routine. And when I travel, I try to stick to it as much as possible. Even if I don't do every single element, I try to do as much as I can. And that has made such a big difference for me. Another aspect of it. So I love taking showers at night, but I got this thing in my head listening to other people in my 20s and 30s. Oh no, you wake up, you take your shower first thing in the morning. And I hated that, but I did it because everyone else did that. It was like, oh, you should do that. And once I was like, well, is there any like sort of explanation for why you need to take a shower in the morning? Because for me, again, it's a way to really wind down, to take a shower or bath at night, relax. I like to go to bed clean. And, so again, just having a nighttime ritual. It's so important to have rituals and to have daily habits. But you have to be patient with yourself and develop them over time.
Yes, I agree. And in developing them over time, you have that consistent habit forming that allows you to really take ownership of your life because you have instilled that discipline in your life.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned gratitude and how keeping a gratitude journal was something that was really important to you.
Yep.
Now, in that same vein, Can you share with the Limitless Nation in one sentence, what are you most grateful for today?
Whew. One thing. I am most grateful for all of the people who are in my life who've come into it and supported the mission of Cancer U. I'm really
100%.
grateful.
100%. Now, in a similar scenario, let's say you come back from going to yoga or whatever it's going to be, and you have absolutely nothing left. Everything is gone. You look at your bank account and almost everything is gone, except for enough to buy one book or one course or one audiobook. Everything is gone. What is the first book, audiobook, or course that you must have in order to get back on your feet?
I am going to be really audacious and terrible and say my book. I'm going to say my book because if I had nothing left, but I have my book, it's about my sister. And there are photos of her in the book because it's designed like a journal. And I would want my book. And I know the feedback I've gotten from it and how much people really, really love reading it. And it's, it's been described by critics as complex and raw and emotional. Even a few critics have said that it will change your life. It definitely gives you an inside view of what it's actually like to go through a cancer journey. Like no punches pulled. It's the real deal. And but more than anything else, if I didn't have anything else, I would want my book because of the photos of my sister in there.
Right. And you use those as motivation to keep you moving forward.
Absolutely. You can't see my office right now, but yeah, I have photos of her everywhere. Yeah, she is my motivation for sure.
And that's something extremely inspiring. Now, in moving forward in this journey that you've been on, you can't necessarily do it all by yourself. You have to have motivation, you have to have inspirations, and sometimes you have to have tools and resources that allow you to get to that next level at an easier rate, because you can cut down a tree with a hammer or you can cut it down with an axe, but it's
Right?
definitely easier with an axe.
Right?
So
A lot of us start with a hammer though.
So do you have a resource or a skill or something that you can share with the Limitless Nation to help them get to their next level?
Well, I would like to offer your listeners a lifetime membership to Cancer U if they or the loved one has been newly diagnosed with cancer. I mean, Cancer U really came out of not having what I needed when my sister was diagnosed. For example, from day one, my sister should have gone into a clinical trial. But by the time clinical trials were discussed, it was too late. It was way too late for her. And so that's really, how Cancer U evolved. So I'd like to offer a free lifetime membership. All you have to do is go to cancer.university. You see buttons everywhere say apply now. You do that apply now. You fill out a very short application. And then when it says how to pay, you says for a coupon code. So you're going to enter a coupon code. It's really easy. You just enter the word limitless. It's one word, all caps, and you will have your free lifetime membership.
That's incredible. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Welcome.
That is definitely something that is heartfelt, that's very genuine, that's really will help a lot of people.
Yeah, that's what we want to do. So, and it's a perfect time for us right now because we are in between our beta launch and our pilot program, and we just, we want to help people. It makes a big difference if you have that support from day one.
Absolutely. I think it was Viktor Frankl who said that no matter what you're going through, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, that whenever you go through any sort of pain, it's the meaning that you prescribe to the pain that you are going through that determines whether or not you are going to be able to live through it.
Yeah,
Now,
that's true.
Obviously, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I found also that it is true that no matter what difficulty you go through, you have to prescribe some type of meaning to whatever it is that you're going through. Because the moment you find that whatever you're going through is useless and you just give up is the moment that you're most likely to die. Versus you found a way to transform your pain, your challenge, your difficulty into something that was a very positive energy. You made it into a best-selling book. and now you're encouraging so many people to really live a better life because they have more resources at their fingertips that they otherwise might not have had.
Yeah, yeah, thank you so much. And I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. I had to find a way to channel my grief. I really did, or I was going to die. I was extremely suicidal. Very few people knew that, but I was, after my sister died, and about a year after, I was done. I didn't want to participate in life anymore at all. And for me, when I started my nonprofit, which is where it began, I I just was trying to find a way to channel my grief. And at that time, there wasn't a single charity in the US doing anything for primary liver cancer patients or caregivers. If there had been, I would have just volunteered for them, but there wasn't a single charity.
100%. So if you had the ability to travel back in time and talk to, let's just say, talk to your sister, what advice would you give your sister that you may not have had the ability to say at that time?
I I wish my sister and I had had the death conversation, and we didn't. And my sister was an incredible writer. She actually kept a journal when she was sick that she started before she ever got sick, but she kept going, and it was an online journal. And I didn't read it until a few years after she died because she had asked me not to read it. And and I use those journal entries in my book so you can actually see her point of view as a patient and my point of view as a caregiver. And there was this point where I thought she was getting better and she knew she was getting worse. And I survived that time because I lived in a very healthy state of denial. I had to really, really pretend that she was going to get better, even though deep, deep, deep down, I knew she wasn't. Like, I actually had some premonitions that are in the book that I talk about, premonitions I'd had for years that she was not going to grow up. But I didn't know what it was. I just didn't know exactly what it was. But I knew I would outlive her, for example. I've known since the day she was born I would outlive her. But I thought she would be in her 50s and I would be in my 70s, just little things like that. So, but she really protected me. She really did. And she didn't want to have that conversation with me. I didn't want to have that conversation, but I wish we had had that conversation, because I had to make decisions when she died that were really hard to make, but I think I knew her well enough to make them. But I see people having to make these decisions, usually for a parent, and they have no idea what to do. And so I really encourage people, have that death conversation before you get sick. Have that conversation. We're all going to die, people. I hate to break it to you, but we're all going to die. So have that conversation, have that advanced directive in place, which is a living will, which is all about your health care. It has nothing to do with personal property. It's so important to just have the discussion before you get sick.
100%. Because when you have that discussion before something happens, it's like saying, okay, when my car breaks down, this is how much money I have in order to fix it. This is how I'm going to fix it. Instead of saying, oh no, my car broke down and I have no money and I need to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a fairly good analogy. Yeah. And it's good just to kind of get it, once you have the conversation, it's not like you have to keep talking about it. You've had it, it's done. You don't really have to address it again until someone does become ill. But it's really important. It's an important thing to do, especially if you are a parent and you have more than one child. Let's say you have several adult children and you have not told them what it is that you want, and suddenly you have a stroke. I mean, that's very difficult. I've just seen people make really tough decisions or not make any decision and leave a relative in a vegetative state just because they couldn't make a decision because they didn't know what to do. So, yeah, just have the conversation.
100%. And it also shows courtesy and respect to the people that you leave behind.
Yes, absolutely. It really does. I have a good friend who serves on my nonprofit board, and her mother knew she was dying. I think it was from COPD, and her mother helped plan her funeral. I mean, long before it happened, but her mother, I thought, what a gift to give your daughters. And they were grown, they were both over 40, but what a gift to give them to talk about your own funeral, to plan everything. So when she did die a few years later, they already knew what to do. Mom had told them exactly what to do and what she wanted. And so it just took that burden off them. And they didn't have any doubt about what it was their mother wanted. And I really thought that was such a generous gift that she gave to them.
Absolutely. Now, can you tell us again, Andrea Wilson Woods, where can the Limitless Nation go to learn more about you, what you have going on, and to connect with you, say hi, and really follow your journey?
Well, go to Better Off Bald, so BetterOffBald, Better Off Bald, it's the name of my book.com, and all of my social media links are there. Also, you can get a free copy of the book there, and occasionally I do Goodreads giveaways there, and I'm super active on LinkedIn, so if you just look me up on LinkedIn, Andrea Wilson Woods, I'm the only one, and connect with me on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you very, very much for your time, Andrea Wilson Woods.
Thank you so much. I've had a wonderful time.
Yes, I'm sure that you have inspired the Limitless Nation. I am sure and I know that you have inspired me, because you went through something that almost no one would even imagine. And you went through life backwards in a way, as you said.
I did.
You raised a child in your 20s that wasn't your own child, and in a time where most people are out there partying, enjoying life, traveling. As you said, your friends were all on vacations. You were raising a young child below the age of 15, and then you had to face life head on, because life threw the huge challenge in your face, not only to raise this child, but also the realization that this child now has cancer, to the passing of your sister. It's just a whirlwind of emotions. And then even past that, moving from LA to Alabama, where you don't know anyone, and there's a Southern accent that you got to learn, and all these amazing things just coming at you seemingly out of nowhere. And you had to find a way to channel all of this energy and grief and really deal with this trauma. And instead of keeping all of this stuff to yourself, because you ended up writing a book, you became a best-selling author, which is something that not many people get the opportunity to even imagine in their lives. But you took all that energy and became a best-selling author. And instead of keeping all of this to yourself, where all you learned about cancer and such to yourself, instead of keeping that to yourself, instead of wallowing in your grief, instead of staying a victim, you decided to go out and become a victor. And now although you can't do anything about your sister, you can honor her memory by sharing all these resources that you learned about with so many other people, so that they don't have to go through as much difficulty or pain as you went through. And that is so inspiring, that while you can't really bring someone back to life, you can honor their memory by helping other people live a much fuller life.
Donovan, you're going to make me cry. Thank you so much. That was very sweet. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Well, until next time, this is Donovan saying, stay limitless.
Well, that's a wrap. Please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the word subscribe. And if you want to go deeper on learning on what you need to do to hunt your future, make sure you watch the interview that I've done with Donovan on what you need to do to hunt your future on every aspect of your being. This allows you to live a limitless life on every aspect of your life, starting from today's forward. Plus, you are going to receive tips and tricks on what you need to do to tackle your day, tackle your challenges on every situation, every single time. So go ahead and download it right now. And until then, stay limitless forever.
Okay, better off bald. Okay. Okay, what I was hearing was better off balls. That doesn't sound right.
Okay, I like that. I should just go get the domain name right now.